You gotta love new watch day. You gotta love new Hamilton day. This is the brand new Hamilton Khaki Field. I was gonna say expedition, but it's not the expedition. It's the Engineered Garments limited edition, and it's almost perfect. It's so close to being perfect, but there's just a couple of things that you know. Let's talk about it. You know, Hamilton as a brand has always been pretty incredible at giving us exactly what we want. It truly listens to their fan base, to us, the watch community. I mean, look at the Murph, for example. We always wanted a smaller version of the Murph, and they gave us it. Then we wanted a white dialed Murph. They gave us that, and so on, so forth. And now they're giving us a 36mm full titanium engineered garments limited edition khaki field. And I have thoughts. The thing is, guys, and I've said this in a couple of different videos, but boring is oftentimes better. I would argue that the most iconic watches in the industry are boring because it's hard to perfect an already perfected formula. And in a way, I feel like this is what this limited edition has done. There's not that many tweaks on it. There's not that many changes on it, at least big, bold changes that we can see, obviously. But that's because they don't have to do that, because it's pretty much perfect as it is. Anyway, I'm rambling. Let's go on to the watch. Okay, so firstly, let's talk about what engineered garments actually are. Why is this such a big deal? Essentially, Engineered Garments is a Japanese fashion company, and they do limited edition drops. It's a little bit like Supreme. They do limited drops, and people go crazy because there's not many of them, and they're also extremely good designers. This specific Hamilton Khaki Field Engineered Garments is limited to 1,999 pieces, which actually is the year that Engineered Garments was founded by Suzuki. Okay, now we've covered that little bit, let's move on to the specs of this piece, because I think the specs are super sexy, but there's just a couple of things little snags that I want to go over. So firstly, this comes in at 36mm in diameter. Now from field watches, from khaki field watches specifically, we're kind of used to smaller sizes. In the military, when they use watches, they can't have something too big, too bulky, so they use smaller sizes. So that kind of plays into the roots of Hamilton and of the khaki field and of a military-inspired watch. So that to me isn't a big issue at all. Actually, I quite like the sizing of it. Because it doesn't have a bezel like the khaki field Expedition, the face has more dial real estate, so it looks a little bit chunkier on the wrist. I would definitely say it wears more like a 37, I would say. And that 36mm in diameter is complemented pretty wonderfully by the thickness. It comes in at 10.6mm in thickness, and that houses the H10 movement, which is just unbelievable. And we'll move on to that in a second. The first thing you'll notice when you pick this watch up, and definitely what I noticed, is how light it is. It is unreal, and that's because it's made out of titanium. Now, titanium has a kind of darker hue to it than stainless steel does. Stainless steel tends to look a little bit brighter, a little bit more bubbly, if you will, than bubbly, what an odd word, than titanium. And I love the titanium aesthetic. I love that darkened, dulled down aesthetic that kind of makes it look more rugged and more like a field watch. Now, this watch does come with a bracelet, and the bracelet does have a deployment clasp here at the bottom, which is really, really nice. It doesn't have a quick release functionality or anything like that on this bracelet, but I kind of wish they had included that. The bracelet has a 3-link approach, a pretty minute taper. It only tapers very, very slightly, and it's all in brushed titanium, which is quite nice. The dial on this watch well, you know what? Instead of what I think about it, let's read what you guys thought about it on the Chisholm Hunter YouTube community page and also the Chisholm Hunter Watches Instagram family page. Okay, so Watch Ot Ya Doin says, I fell asleep as soon as I saw the dial. You know, boring in the industry isn't a bad thing. Boring, in my opinion, is better. When you have a perfect formula, you don't really need to do much to tweak it, to just modify it slightly to make it stand out. There is a couple of modifications on this that make it stand out to me. So I would disagree with that. I'm interested in seeing more specs when it comes out, says Shark Time Watches. Simple as a field watch should be, says Transless Cat. I am Den Tonio says looks clean, balanced, and somewhat plain. But yes, that's the point. That's what a military watch is meant to look like. It's meant to feel like that. It's not meant to scream too loud. It's there to serve a purpose. It's there to serve a function. It's there to be read and read at a glance. So yes, this watch is very plain, but that's kind of how it's meant to be. The dial is in this beautiful black color, and the numerals are big, bold, and white, and they're also filled with superluminova. Now, at the tip of the second hand, which is going around at the moment, you can see a white arrow, which is really, really nice. But something that I've noticed, and I'm not sure if it's just on this watch, I'm not sure if maybe I've not noticed it before and it's just springing to my mind now, but in the very center of this dial, where all the hands are put together, essentially, the screw that's putting them together is in this beautiful silver color. And it's just this tiny little detail, this tiny little dot in the middle of the dial that I wouldn't have noticed otherwise, that actually looks really nice. This watch is water resistant to 100 meters, has sapphire crystal glass, and has a crown on the right hand side. And it's not a screw down crown, it's just the bog standard crown that you normally get in Khaki Field watches. But where the limited edition flares really start coming in is on the case back. The case back has this kind of half moon design to it, and above the half moon where the kind of metal is, it says Hamilton X engineered garments limited edition of 1,999 pieces. And below that, the rotor perfectly fits in that half moon. And honestly, that is quite sexy to me. However, the one flaw that I have about this watch is the fact that it's limited edition. Now, someone that doesn't have a connection to engineered garments, why would they buy this watch instead of the bog standard Khaki Fields? I kind of get the collaboration, I get the promotion, I understand the marketing, I love the design, but I would love to see this as just a normal standard line, not a limited edition, not a collaboration, 100% Hamilton. And that's, I think, how the Khaki Fields should remain. The movement on this watch is the H10 movement, and this has 80 hours of power and also a Nivicron balance spring. Now, when you think of 80 hours of power shoved into that smaller case, plus it's fully automatic, so it has that rotor in the back, that's quite impressive. Now, this watch does come in at £1,070, so yes, it's a lot more expensive than your normal Hamilton Khaki Field automatics would be. However, you're kind of paying for the name here. You're paying for the limited edition part of this watch. With that said, I would love to see two things. One, making this a run-of-the-mill 100% Hamilton watch that does not have a limited edition number on the back of it. Two, a white dial. And if anybody listens to us, listens to The Enthusiast, then we know it's Hamilton, and we know that hopefully, if enough of us scream about it, they'll bring it out. And that's it. That's all. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please consider hitting that subscribe button or follow our Instagram at Chisholm Hunter Watches or our podcast at Into the Mind Podcast or my channel at HB Life Lens. HB and then Life. And it's a long story. Yeah. See you soon.